I want to talk about the Bolsa Puerto network. The Bolsa Puerto network is actually the result of an IEEE Humanitarian Technology Challenge back in 2010. Martin Murillo then and his volunteers in Toronto built a proof of concept network. After that, they won a humanitarian activities committee grant to build a network. This is in Peru, in Amazon, Peru. And what I really want to talk about, there's actually had been a GHTC paper on this in 2010 on the original proof of concept. There was an IEEE Technology Magazine article on some of the technology in 2014. What I really want to talk about today, let's see, I'll make this flip slides.
He was with IDRC then, right? Martin Morel?
Is this what now?
Martin.
Is, oops. What happened? Oops.
You restarted.
I think you're out of
Oh, here we go.
slideshow.
Oh, okay. Let's go back there. There we go, and then we'll go there. Okay, what I really want to talk about today is the sustainability of the network. As we all know, when we talk about sustainability, there has to be technological, social, and economic sustainability. The technology here I'll go through, although this technology is pretty well known, it's Wildmutt technology. We know that Wildmutt technology is sustainable in the Amazon. We've had one 450-kilometer round-trip network operating there for 8 years, 9 years now. It's more the problems of the social and economic that we want to talk about. So this is where we're talking about Peru. You're probably aware of that. Peru is actually a reasonably well-off country. It's about 50 in GNP worldwide. However, that's not uniform throughout the country. Up here is the state of Loreto, which is about 30%. The landmass of Peru. Peru, as we know, is broken up into a coastal plain. Some of the highest mountains in the world, the Andes, the second highest mountain chain in the world. And then in here is the Amazon River Valley along here. And that, again, is the state of Loreto with 30% of the landmass of Peru. It's only 3% of the population and actually has a lower share of that for GDP. What we're going to talk about, the network, the Bolsa Puerto network runs from Bolsa Puerto to Urimalas in the state of Loreto. Here's the Amazon River. The Amazon River is actually formed from the Ucayali and the Marañón at a place called Nauta, which is just south of Iquitos, the biggest city in the Amazon. What we're talking about here is the Huallaga is one of the main feeders of the Marañón, and along here there's a smaller river called the Paranapura, and we're talking about a network that runs along the Paranapura. The longest Wi-Fi network in the world runs from Iquitos up here to the border along the Napo. But today we're talking about this down here, although I'll use some pictures from the Napo net, which I've worked on more extensively actually than this network. This is the Huallaga that we just looked at here. Here's Urimalas. Here's the Paranapura. There are a few problems that make this area poor and make it very hard to communicate in. In most of the Amazon, you have 35-meter high jungle. It has a canopy at the top. Radio waves will not penetrate the canopy. So that's a problem. You can't penetrate with radio waves. Most of the Amazon River Valley floods. In Iquitos, it floods 10 meters a year between dry stage and wet stage, which puts about 70% of the land underwater, at least part of the year. The problem is not that severe down here. The problem here is actually that the river goes dry and there's no navigation. Then it floods when it goes to flood stage and ropes out the roads. So you have no roads and you don't have reliable transport on the river, not even with smaller boats with pecky-peckies. So anyway, this links together 4 health posts. Each one of these links is about 25 kilometers here. You can get about 40 kilometers out of a standard network. Over here, this is just to show you what the jungle, what the area looks like. This is not the 35 high meter jungle. It's less. We're in the upper Amazon here. We're above 200 meters. I normally don't put people in my pictures. These are pictures that were taken by one of the guys from Grupo de Telecomunicaciones Rurales, Cesar Caroba, and all of his pictures have Ana Serrano in them. Ana's one of the economists who worked on this project. Anyway, she's also from Catholic University of Peru in Lima. This is what the network looks like. Again, this is running Wi-Fi long distance. We're running 802.11n. It's now been upgraded to 802.11s. The backbone, again, is 5.8 gigahertz. This is the longest link, which is probably 30 kilometers. But the downlinks, there's not only a downlink at 2.4 gigahertz going to each one of the Puesta de Salud, the health posts, but also the whole area is being illuminated here with WiMAX. So that in that area there, you can have full connectivity, VoIP, other things using just a handset. So the idea is this is something like a community network. This is something like a real VoIP network that covers almost the whole area. And it works pretty well. It's been upgraded since the time that this picture was taken. I'll say that at the end, not to spend too much time. This is the technology. This is what a node looks like. This is the top of a tower. Up on the top of the tower, you can see a complete solar system with 2 solar panels. You can't see the batteries. You can see here the receiver antenna. There's a transceiver antenna, downlink. This is a downlink here. This is like a sectoral link up here. And there's downlinks then. This is in Santa Clotilde. This is actually a MapoNet rather than a Balsa Puerto net. But again, it's very, very similar technology. This goes into a hospital, this goes into a health post, and again, you have Linksys routers, you have computers, you have VoIP. The towers, again, in the upper Amazon, or in the lower Amazon, in the lowest point of the Amazon, we have to use 60 to 90 meter towers in order to get over curvature of the earth in the 35 meter high jungle. So this is a typical tower. This is in Angateras, Peru, here. Here's them putting up a tower, the townsfolk in Balsa Puerto putting up their tower. So this is, I guess, both social and technical. The people in the town were very involved in putting these networks in. They voted to have a health network and that they do what they could to support that health network. The health network uses very, very little of your 100 megabits per second of communication bandwidth. You can put in a lot of services on top of that in order to support the network. This is the economic part of what we're trying to do with networks in the Amazon. This tower here, given the size of the jungle, is actually overkill, but Grupo de Telecomunicaciones Rurales, GTR, of Catholic University of Peru, or of Lima, are the people who actually did the construction. They know how to get these because these are what they've been using in the upper Amazon. So actually the antennas here for the towers are a little bit of overkill. Take quite an effort to get them up. That's in Balsa Puerto. So this is just looking down on what this looks like from one of these. This is actually in San Rafael. This is not in Balsa Puerto. And just giving you the idea of what the solar panels look like from above, what the stanchions look like. And here we're using these wire mesh parabolic for the long distance dishes. Here you can get a better view of one feed point over there and a dish. So this is the focus on the next antenna. So this is in a nutshell what the technology is. The downlinks are actually horns that are encapsulated. To put up with there are lots of lightning strikes. There are lots and lots of lightning rods on top of these. There are lots of lightning strikes in the Amazon. So again, this is a wired grid parabola. Social, again, when we put this together, I worked on doing this for the distance subnet on NAPONet. This is one of those meetings there. We had large town meetings. We also had individual interviews. We talked with all of the stakeholders in order to get support from everyone in the community. The first town meetings we held, this was in Angateras, had like 75 to 100 people out of a village with 800 population. So we're talking about 10–15% of the population would come out for the meetings. The same thing in San Juan and Belsa Puerto. And then again, much of this was discussion of how we would provision the surfaces after we had the original health network put in. Again, this is the kind of interest that we had. This was in a town of less than 100. And as soon as school gets out, all the kids would come over. That was one of the things that we noticed in the Amazon as much as anywhere else. We're up in an area where there's no communications, there's no transportation, yet these kids were really, really eager to learn about anything. They were excited about all of these things. When we had funds left over, we would pay students to work with us, to climb the towers. We'd show them the basic rudiments. They'd learn it very fast and how to do this. And then a lot of those kids would later go to Iquitos and end up in tech schools over the period. So the kids there are really smart and savvy on what they do. And again, here's another group meeting, question and answer, that's held in San Juan. This is again one of the towns in the Belsa Puerto network. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the Belsa Puerto meeting. What happened, as I mentioned, was that there was an HTC grant in which there was a proof of concept built in Toronto. After that, there was an HAC grant. The HAC grant built the original Belsa Puerto network. The Belsa Puerto network, unlike any other networks in the Amazon that I know of, was owned by IEEE and the landowners. It was not owned by the government. It was not owned by the UN. This gave us a chance to actually try to make a sustainable business model because the network did not have to revert to the government. When networks revert to the government, there's a statistic that's been thrown out. I haven't found the reference for it yet, but there are some millions of dollars of wild nets throughout the Amazon area, and most of them are rotting because the governments cannot support them. The governments do not come up with the money to maintain them. So we tried to come up with a sustainable business model. This meeting was now almost 2 years ago. This was Thanksgiving 2014. The network was up. There were no funds to keep it running. We decided to put together a sustainable business model. Again, Martin Murillo and myself put together, this is IEEE funded workshop. This is all of the stakeholders and all of the entrepreneurs in the area. The entrepreneurs were willing to put up Wi-Fi, for example, internet cafes. Internet cafes are very popular in the Amazon. They make large money in Iquitos. They've worked every place they've been put in. We had plenty of bandwidth to do that. So the meeting was to put together these kinds of agreements. There's several of us, a couple from the University of Colorado, several from the University of Madrid, and a few others from Catholic University in Lima. I'll break out. This is just to show we have economists. This is Luis Solórzano from University of Madrid. There's Ana Serrano from Catholic University in Lima. There's Marty Tajjan back there from UC Boulder. Martin Murillo from Notre Dame. So we did have a whole crew of economists to put this together, and here are some of my grad students. There's Cesar, who took all the pictures, except for this one, evidently. So we have plenty of economists. We put together a business canvas. This is much too much to read, but just the fact that we did go to the level of working with the stakeholders, working with the entrepreneurs to make an actual business canvas. And we had lots of agreements. And now just to go into the economics of this, these are just summing together how many possible people we had who could use the network. If you do a very gross calculation, if you look at the numbers on people who make minimum wage, who makes $2 a day, which is considered the absolute poverty line, if you look at how those people spend their money, you find out they don't spend it on food. They spend about 10% on entertainment and communications. In all cases, every place where this study has been done. Those are about the numbers that come out. We figured that there are about 11,000 people who wanted internet in that area. And if you take 1% of $2 a day times 1,100, you get about $220 a day. A good salary in Lima is $16 a day. That's mean salary. In the Amazon, $10 a day is a very high salary. If people really were to go into a co-op and put in 1%, you'd find out that this would make a viable economic model. We have social backing, we have an economic model, we have a technology that works. So what happened, we had lots and lots of agreements at the end of 2014 going into 2015. The problem was we had too many signatories. And we were here. Martin then was in Notre Dame, I was in Boulder. There were people in Lima. What the people in Lima did was said, let's forget having a sustainable model. They went to the European Union. And the European Union put in another several $1 million in order to test a technology called Toucan 3G. Toucan 3G replaces the WiMAX with another technology, proprietary technology, in order to get telephone coverage throughout the whole area. And so now they're running tests on that. The network, they did this actually for both NapoNet and Balsa Puerto network through 2015 and most of 2016. They're now out of money. They have no more money to maintain the network. Napo network is down. I don't know if Balsa Puerto network is up, but the equipment's been upgraded, so the equipment no longer belongs to IEEE. So what happened is we almost had a sustainable business model. We came rather close, but we didn't quite get there. And that's about what I have for today. Yeah, question.
Let's go back to HTC, and as you recall, you were in that communication group. Was this part of, they came up with a best practice model. Was this the actual practical model that Martin did, or did he do that at Carleton University?
Martin, first under HTC in 2010, built a model between Algonquin University and the main university in Toronto.
No.
Okay, and then this network here was put together as part of an HAC proposal. You had to show that you had a proof of concept, and then you wrote another proposal, so it was stage 2. And the Balsa Puerto network was built in 2012 on the HAC funds.
Okay, so let me jump ahead to smart villages. I know you're working on some pilot projects with another technology. Is any of this sort of transferred into smart village?
This would be the same, essentially the same technology.
Oh, okay.
This is using WildNet. Now, when I say WildNet, I generally mean 802.11 whatever. It started with 802.11b, and then 802.11g, and then 802.11n, and then 802.11s, and now 802.11a, b, b, c, c. All of those are 802.11s, and they all are based on ISM, which is industrial, scientific, and
Medical?
okay. And which?
Medical?
Medical, yeah. Industrial, scientific, and medical band. The world together, world organizations have decided that 2.4 gigahertz, 5.1 gigahertz, and 5.8 gigahertz are going to be unassigned. Anybody can use those anywhere, anytime, without having to pay the government to rent them. Those are free. That's why we have Wi-Fi routers at 2.4 and Wi-Fi routers at 5.8. Nobody else can claim those bands. Okay, so 802.11 IEEE made standards on those bands because they were unlicensed, not necessary to license. Since then, people have been starting to put proprietary technology in there also. What we're testing under the IEEE Smart Village program is all of these new proprietary technologies, some of which are very cheap and very powerful. You can buy complete transceiver units which have readouts which show you measurements of bit error rate and everything else you can imagine for about 200 bucks. Back in the old days, it would cost us maybe 400 bucks to put one of these together, but it was a nightmare. It was like rewriting the protocols. It was like monkeying the equipment. It was like doing telemetry to try to get everything to line up. Now you can buy it off the shelf and you just plug it in. Later I have a talk in deployment where I'll show some of those units that we've been testing recently. They're just a really plug and play. You pop them in, you get them in about the right direction, and then they'll tell you when you're lined up by looking at the readout on it. But again, this is all the same technology. Again, this is all ISM. I'd call it ISM technology rather than calling it Wildmutt, actually. Are there other questions? If not, thanks.
Thanks, Al. Can you stick around for our panel?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So.